Hey guys, what's up? All right, welcome back. This is part 3 of our 3-part series on critical, high priority things every RVer should be carrying with them at all times. Remember, this series covers whether you have a trailer, a fifth wheel, a motorhome, a toy hauler. It just doesn't matter. These things that we have covered in this 3-part series can save you a lot of grief and sometimes a lot of money. You have to be prepared when you get in that RV. So anyway, we're going to get into part 3 right now. Details coming up on RV Street. Okay, let's get right to it. If you have not watched part 1 or part 2, I'm going to put those links at the end of this video, at the very end, and you need to watch those. It's packed with very important information, and you'll be prepared, like in the military. So when you get on the road to perform that next RV mission, you're not going to be caught unawares and unprepared. So let's get right to it. Here's part 3, and we're going to pick it up with the water softener. Okay, so let's go to the next group, the next item, and that is a water softener. But not just a water softener, but a water softener and a filtering system. And here's a clip right here. I'm going to actually run this in real time on our way up here to Maine. We stopped at a campground and I set up the camera so you can see in real time how fast it takes me to set up our water. If you go to Walmart or wherever you go to get your hoses, yeah, the least you can buy is like maybe a 10-foot, 15-foot, 20-foot. You got all these hoses everywhere. I had all my hoses pre-cut and pre-made to the length that I want, so I don't have all this extra hose. And with my quick disconnects, it's into my water source, into the coach, into the water softener, and I'm good to go. So yesterday I did another little small recap. Okay, so here we are at the wet bay, and again I'm going to just give you just a small little recap of how we've set this up and how important it is to have a water softener. If you want to watch an in-depth video on how I've set up our wet bay, I cover everything, how we keep it warm, how we've insulated it, some other attachments that I've made, and so forth. So for this recap, the first thing I do, of course, is I hook up the water at the spigot that you can see right here. It has a Y where I connect it to the spigot, and then I have my regulator and my first inline SETI filter. Then at the end of the SETI filter, I have my water hose here. This water hose comes from the spigot, and I wind it up and I keep it in this tub. And when we get ready to leave, the tub goes and is stored into here. So the water source hose is coming from here. It comes up through the bottom and it snaps into here with my quick disconnect. It comes over into my second SETI filter. Then it comes into my third filter, which is a 0.5 micron carbon filter. Comes out of that filter and down and into the softener, out the softener, back in and into the coach. So all the water in the coach is triple filtered and softened. And this is the same water that I fill my fresh water tank with by just flipping this lever right here. Now I'm filling my fresh water tank with triple filtered and softened water. What makes hooking up my water so easy is I've had all these hoses made to size. So it's very easy to disconnect, run them up through the hole, connect them, store them up in here, put this tub in there, and I'm done. So I highly recommend, if you want to quit hassling with your water, if you set it up that way, it makes this a snap. So as you've heard me say many times, we bought an on-the-go water softener. They come in 3 different sizes. You have a small one, you have a double standard, which is this one, and then you have a real tall one, and those are mainly for people who are permanently parked somewhere and they're never going to move. This double standard version is very popular within RVers, and it will soften about 15,000 gallons per regeneration. Now, what do I mean by regeneration? It means that it has to be recharged every 3 months or every 15,000 gallons. How do you know when you're supposed to recharge the softener with salt? Well, this is how you do it. We carry with us in the kitchen these test strips, okay? And inside this jar, you have these little strips right here. And just from the kitchen sink, you take a cup of water and you hold the test strip in there for 1 second. You pull it back out and you put it against the legend here inside the bottle. You see that right there? You're looking for hardness. This is low, this is high hardness. And you can see that I have very low hardness. And the reason is this time is because I just recharged this a couple of days ago. I'm coming out with a whole new video on how that regeneration process works. It's really simple to do. But the point of this video is to point out how important it is to have a water softener. A water softener is going to allow you, first of all, to eliminate all the calcium buildup that you see in your coach, on your shower walls, getting clogged up in your water fixtures, accumulating calcium and magnesium buildup in your hot water heater. If you have a washer and dryer in your coach, your washer is going to be using that hard water. And you don't want hard water going through your ice maker and your washer and your hot water heater and all of your plumbing and all that kind of stuff. The way you solve this problem is with a water softener. Now, some people who have larger coaches have room to mount these water softeners permanently. They'll plumb them up, they'll stick it in there, but for us, we didn't want to do that. I did not want to take up the room or the weight to put this in another bay and plumb it over here to my filtering system and all that. We just carry this in our car behind the front seat, and we just pick it up, set it here, and put it together as I just showed you. This double standard size on-the-go water filter will last about 7 years. And again, filtering 15,000 gallons between each regeneration, recharging it, and that's about every 3 months. So you have to recharge this about every 3 months or so for a regular full-timing couple. Now, if you are using a washing machine, you'll have to recharge it faster because you're using more water, right? But anyway, having a water softener on board on your RV, doesn't matter what kind of RV you have, it is critical, high priority thing that you should have at all times. So the way I have this set up with 3 filters, a water softener, and easy quick disconnects with custom made hoses, man, in my opinion, this system just cannot be beat. Now, for those of you that may disagree with me or not believe me, how critical a water softener is, I'm going to tell you another quick little story. Joni and I, a while back, was parked right across the street from people who became our friends. They just bought a brand new fifth wheel about a year and a half ago, okay? He was a traveling construction guy. He was a project manager. So he'd go to one city, do a job, stay there a year, year and a half, move on to the next job, and so on. So he just bought this a year and a half ago before he came to Houston for this next project. And a year and a half later, all his water stopped working. He didn't know what was wrong. He's working. He doesn't have time to fool with the RV, right? And all of a sudden his wife said, honey, the hot water heater doesn't run, doesn't work. The shower ain't working right, this, that, and the other. Well, he called a mobile tech, and the mobile tech said, well, your hot water heater is shot. The element is all burned up and just corroded big time with calcium deposits. And it's all through your entire plumbing system. Half your lines are clogged, your fixtures are clogged. He says, we're gonna have to go through here and clean up and replace the hot water heater and a whole bunch of your plumbing and blah, 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 blah. $4,500 bucks. $4,500 bucks. And the guy looked at her and said, if you had a water softener, this wouldn't have happened. So that's what I'm saying. You need a water softener. Setting up a water softener, having your hoses custom made to where this is exactly what you need and you don't have all that extra hose laying around, and having a dual water system in addition to your inline filter like I showed you. These things are essential. They're critical priority parts you need to be carrying with you at all times. Okay, so let's get to the last and final group. Every RVer needs to carry a good set of at least basic tools, because stuff is going to break, and it's going to break in the most inopportune time. And you're going to need to have your tools right there to be able to fix it. You may have to get on the phone and somebody may guide you on what to do, but if you don't have the tools, you're going to be out of luck. And it can happen anywhere. It can happen on the road, in a campground, anywhere it can happen. So we're going to cover tools and what you should have. But first, a little quick background about me so you'll know that, yeah, you know, Martin, I think he knows what he's talking about. When I was younger, I was a journeyman millwright for years. And I worked in petrochemical plants, and I've worked on some of the most dangerous equipment known to man. Pumps and acid pumps and air compressors and, I mean, you name it. And when I was in the Army, I worked on tanks. I was a mechanic on helicopters. In my private life, I've worked on a sundry different vehicles and built motorcycles and you name it. So I have always had tools. I have always wrenched on my own stuff. And so I pretty well know what you should and shouldn't have. Now, when we went to go full time, I had a full-blown garage that had every tool known to man. And I had to condense it down to what I must take with me. Joni thought I was nuts. She says, you need all this? You're not going to need all that. Wrong. She's the believer now. I'm constantly in my tools. So let's go around to the tool bay, and I'm going to give you a brief overview of how I set up my tool bay and some suggestions for what you should have in your tool bay. Okay, so here we are at my tool bay, and one thing I've learned in my lifetime is never to buy cheap tools, period. There's nothing worse than working with a cheap tool and you're wrenching on something and that thing slips and you end up racking up your knuckles and hands and all that. And I finally had a guy ask me, hey, what are those black socks you got doing on your hands? And I said, well, this protects my arms because I'm always wrenching on something, and it just inevitably I always end up going and saying, Joni, I cut myself again. Instead of buying something expensive, I went and bought 2 big long tube socks, cut off the toes, put them on there, and these stay in my toolbox. Let me kind of show you real quickly. This is how I carry my tools, just like that. I have my bag and I have my box. And this bag and box is a condensed version of everything that I used to have in the house. And I had to decide what was important and what did I need to carry. I have here my bag. We'll go through that in a minute. This goes with me. If I ever have something like, okay, I need to look at XYZ, the first thing I grab is my bag. But as I get further into the project and I need other tools, I carry them in here. I have a full set of wrenches, American and metric. I have a full set of very small tools, of small wrenches I should say, because these come in real handy. I have some more sets here of different fittings and so forth. I have impact sockets and 1/2-inch sockets. I have full sets of 1/4 inch, 3/8, and 1/2-inch drive. Very important. You can't just get a little dinky set because, like 3/8 drive, because when these RVs have a lot of big bolts. You need some heavy duty equipment. And one other thing that probably a lot of you don't think about, but let's say you're wrenching on something like this, and you're up there, you're really trying to get on something and you can't seem to break it. You always want to carry a cheater pipe. You slip that baby in there like that, and now you can really get on that thing. So make sure you have a piece of pipe as a cheater pipe. Continuing on the road here, not only do I have 1/2-inch, 3/8, and 1/4 inch drive, this is all 1/4 inch stuff. I'm in this box a lot. I'm in all of it a lot. I have clamps, I have some dies, I have a rivet gun, screwdrivers, a set of mics, Allen wrenches, drill bits, easy out. I have torque wrenches. But this is the heavier stuff. I don't always need this stuff on every job. When I go to any repair thing that I need to work on, I go to my bag first. All the heavy stuff stays in the toolbox. Behind the toolbox, I carry bins of bolts and nuts and washers and grommets and things that I would commonly need. I'm in here all the time. In this back tub here are all my sprays, lubes, caulks, sealants. All that is all back in here. Over here on this side, I carry all of my electrical stuff, and of course 2 more bins of nuts and screws and washers. This whole side is for my water related items. Got some electrical fittings here, below here, and again a whole bunch of assorted washers, screws and stuff. You've just got to have this stuff. It's amazing how often I come in here and I need a couple of screws or I need some washers or whatever. I 99% of the time will have what I need right in here. Then I also carry a bin of assorted wire in case I need to make a little jumper cable or what have you. I carry plenty of wire, the pliers, and some tape. Over here, these are all of my fuses. These are fuses for the chassis and the motorhome. I went through the entire motorhome and looked at all the different fuses I needed, and now I'm redundant. I have them all right here. When I changed out my headlights on this coach, I changed them to LEDs. I kept my used ones just in case something goes wrong. And then over here, I have some more electrical fittings, some more wire, some battery posts, dielectric grease, electrical tape, and odds and ends. So what am I saying here? I am not saying that you need to be like me. This is stuff that I have accumulated over time, okay? But you need to put this on your list now to get a good set of tools and have some of these basic screws and nuts and bolts and wire and fuses. You need to start. And over time, you will build a good inventory as things break and you go buy things. You'll have what you need in time. But this is a critical, high priority item to have these tools and these kind of fix-it items. Even like right here, penetrating lube, dry lube. I mean, you have to have this stuff because you use it all the time. Okay, so now let's go through my bag. Okay, I believe I know my audience. I know a lot of you guys that have subscribed to this channel or maybe watching this for the first time. You already have a lot of tools and this type of thing, and that's great. Thumbs up to you. But hopefully along the way here, I'm at least giving you guys some pointers, but I'm pretty much directing this tool part to people who are just starting or people who are new and they're just not sure which tools and what kind of tools they need. So in my bag, This is, like I said, this is my first line of defense. When I have something going on, I pick up and grab my bag. The first thing you need is one of these, a screw gun, a battery operated screw gun. I've had this one for 15 years and it still works pretty good, but it's kind of going on its last leg and I need to replace it. And I've already picked the one that I'm going to replace it with. And by the way, I know this may seem a little overwhelming to you guys. You know, how do you know what to pick? I'm going to actually put together a list for you guys who are maybe new or you're just starting to build your toolbox. I'm going to give you some suggestions on what you should have, because I'm also a big believer in USA made tools. And that's hard to find these days. Most of the stuff today in some of these tool places, you know what I'm talking about, these low grade cheap tool shops, they're all made in China. And it's hard to find good American solid made tools. So I'm going to do my best to give you a list of that. But you need one of these, a screw gun. You need an assortment of good screwdrivers. Not just any screwdriver, but ones that have magnetic tips on them. Because that way you can put a screw right on the end of that magnetic tip and it'll stay right in there and you can get into really tight places and not worry about that thing falling off. Big deal. This is one of my favorite tools, a mirror. See there, a little pocket mirror? It telescopes out. I can't tell you how many times I've had to fish underneath in these little tight little corners or under a cabinet or something and try to see something. I used to have just a little small one. It broke, and I had hell trying to find a 2-inch mirror, but I finally did. Brass bristle brush, toothbrush to clean little tiny things, little parts, get them in a bowl with some thinner. You got to clean parts. I got little tiny screwdrivers. Okay, these are for really small flatheads, Phillips heads, and so forth. I got about 4 or 5 of those. Moving around here, I have a little electrical test kit right here to check on, I mean, you guys seen these, right? To check if you've got power into a wire, whatever. Carry one of those with me. If that doesn't work, I'll get out my multimeter, right? Some little pieces of sandpaper. And here are some dielectric grease that I use on the prongs on the ends of my connectors and cords and dog bones. Helps them protect them and keep them, it helps them to go in and out real easy. Moving around here, I got some scrapers. I got plastic scrapers. I've got metal scrapers, vice grips. This is one of my favorite tools. You guys probably saw this when I used this in that video where I replaced the interior lights. Take the wire, snip it just like that, and it pulls that plastic off. This is probably one of the best tools ever invented. Moving right along the bag. These are my big cutting pliers. This is when I'm going through some thick stuff and I really need to get on it. These are the ones I use for small wires. Then, moving around here, I have electrical tape, Teflon tape, assorted other little things. Oh, and don't forget, I have these little files. Look at that, isn't that pretty? Nice to have a small little file. Yeah, it's also good to have a big file when you really got to get on there and, you know, shave something off, right? Crescent wrench, hammer, tape measure. This one here is full of drill bits. This one here is full of assorted tips that go on the end of my screw gun. Got to have a plenty assortment of these. Allen wrenches, metric and American, a box cutting knife, center punch tool. I also use this in my replace the lights video because I had to modify the mounting bracket, a saw, and so on and so on. But you get the point, right? The point is you don't have to have a snap-on roll-away toolbox, but you do need a well-rounded set of pliers. These are channel locks. Sometimes you need pliers. Sometimes you need needle nose pliers. You see, they all have a different function, and if you don't have the right tools, you can't do the job. So I'm going to help you. I'm going to put together what I think would be a really good place to start. I'm going to try to stay American, like I said, and you may not have the room to do this. You know, I mean, I understand that. Some of you guys, you only have a little tiny space. Okay, fine. You get and utilize that tiny space for the most useful tool bag or toolbox you can use, okay? But you have to have one. I was just fortunate in my coach. You see the top level here? Here's the bin with all my washing stuff. But it just happened to be right at that level. So what I did is I measured from the floor up to the top here, and I found this toolbox that was exactly that height, a 5-drawer toolbox. I thought, oh, this is a no-brainer. So I bought this box, put all of my tools that I knew I needed. I put my bag in front of it, and I'm good to go. So let's go back around to the front for final comments. Some really important closing comments here. Everything that we have talked about in part 1, part 2, and part 3, as I said, I feel these are critical, high priority things that every RVer should be carrying. Those that aren't prepared, they're going to run into trouble. They're going to cause issues that could have been avoided. There are so many things that you can have a preemptive strike and take care of it before it turns into a problem. And then that costs you money. So it's really important to prepare before you get on the road. And we've covered what I felt was the most important things. So for this video, I'm going to have links to the softeners, where to get your hoses all custom made, the filters. I'm going to have all that there. And I'm also, especially for those of you who are just starting out and don't have a toolbox, I'm going to hand pick what I feel is a great starting place to have the basics that you're going to need on hand. I'm really going to focus on American-made tools as much as possible, and this will give you confidence that when something breaks down or you need to fiddle with something or fix something or diagnose something, you're going to have what you need. You're not going to be sitting there helpless going, what do I do now? So if you guys liked this video, if this helped you, if you said, wow, this was a really good video, give me a like, and even add some comments on some special tools that you have found to be helpful, or maybe some questions or what have you. When I see these likes and comments, that tells me you liked this type of stuff, and that will encourage me to produce more videos like this. And if you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing to our channel and ringing the bell off to the right so you'll be notified the next time we upload our next video. Anyway, that's it for now, guys. It's been great going through this series with you. I'm glad you stayed aboard. So until next time, this is RV Street. Stick around.